Which of the following diseases are associated with transient hypothyroidism? Okay. Options are Hashimoto's. The question is about transient hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, subacute, and postpartum thyroiditis. Now remember, what is the most common cause for hypothyroidism? If there's a question asking you what is the most common cause for hypothyroidism, not transient, right? The sustained or persistent hypothyroidism. Most common cause in iodine deficient population, right? Iodine deficient population is obviously iodine deficiency. Iodine deficiency. Okay. On the other hand, in iodine sufficient population, the most common cause is Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is a form of autoimmune thyroiditis, right? Hashimoto's disease or Hashimoto's thyroiditis is the most common cause for the hypothyroidism in the iodine sufficient population. And remember, like among the options, Hashimoto's thyroiditis is where you will have a persistent or sustained hypothyroidism and not transient. But in case of subacute thyroiditis, which is also called as de Quervain's thyroiditis, typically following like a development of subacute thyroiditis per se, after upper respiratory viral infection in a subacute presentation, where you will have the patient go through phases, right? Similarly, even the postpartum thyroiditis is a cause where you have transient, both subacute and postpartum, you have transient hypothyroidism. Like say here, I have chronicled the subacute thyroiditis progress. So what happens is, you have an upper respiratory infection. The infection also ends up affecting your thyroid gland, right? And once there is an inflammation of the thyroid gland because of the infection, right, you have release of the thyroid hormones because of the infection, and thus your T4, right, shoots up, like you can see in this case, right? The T4 is quite high. So initially you go through a thyrotoxic phase. Now, why we are having the thyrotoxic phase? Because of the inflammatory attack, the thyroid cells are leaking their hormones into circulation. So you have a thyrotoxic phase. Okay. After that, once the stored hormone is all leaked up, the cells are not active because they are under the inflammatory attack. So because of that, they enter a phase of hypothyroidism. But slowly the cells will regenerate and then start functioning. So you will develop the euthyroid phase again. So the T4 will be very high in the thyrotoxic phase, goes low during the hypothyroid, then starts returning to normalcy. TSH follow the opposite direction, because once the T4 is high, TSH will be suppressed in the thyrotoxic phase. Hypothyroid phase, it increases, right? Euthyroid phase, it returns to normalcy. And if you trace the radioiodine uptake, okay, the radioiodine uptake will shoot up once the patient enters the euthyroid phase, because that is a phase where the cells are regenerated. They are actively taking up the radioiodine to produce more hormone, right? So you will have increased radioiodine uptake activity during the euthyroid phase. This is a typical story of subacute thyroiditis, and even the postpartum thyroiditis is not much different. So you go through phases. In both cases, the hypothyroidism will be transient, making option D as the correct answer for this. Both B, subacute, as well as postpartum thyroiditis, there is transient hypothyroidism. In case of Hashimoto's, there is persistent or permanent hypothyroidism, right? So that's it from me, guys. Thank you.